Welcome to Inside Athletic Training, a podcast from the Professional Baseball Athletic Trainer Society. Joining us on the show today is Eli Hallak, a seasoned athletic trainer and thought leader in the field who currently holds a position of Director of Health Services and Sports Medicine at St. Francis High School outside of Los Angeles, California. With a career spanning multiple decades, Eli has consistently pushed the boundaries of athletic training with his passionate spirit and commitment to the health of the athletes in his care. Now, let's get into our conversation with Eli Hallak. Enjoy the show. All right, Eli, welcome to Inside Athletic Training. Super excited to have you on the podcast today. Look forward to speaking with you about all things athletic training and your career in the field. You're currently the Director of Health Services and Sports Medicine and Head Athletic Trainer at St. Francis High School in La Cañada, California, a position which you've held for a long time, since 1998, I believe. We're super excited to talk about the profession, the development, and also get some awesome advice from you about what younger athletic trainers can look forward to in their up-and-coming career. To start each show, we like to get some more information on background of our guests. So if you don't mind sharing with our listeners, let us know where you're from, were you into sports and things like that growing up, and also how you found a passion for sports medicine and athletic training.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me here today, Sam. It's exciting to be part of this. So thank you very much for having me. Athletic training kind of fell into my lap because I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, just north of LA, and Dodger Town, down there in LA. So little shout out, since we're with the Professional Baseball Association right now. We played everything, anything that had a ball. I played baseball, basketball, volleyball, you name it. But my two passions all the way through high school were baseball and soccer. I played soccer all the way through college as a goalie, and I played shortstop, second base, baseball. I stuck with soccer because I got more breaks. There aren't a lot of goalies out there, and there are a lot of shortstops. So kind of stuck with that and got me through to my university, Humboldt State University. And that's where I really found athletic training as an athlete, or what I considered an athlete back in my day. I was constantly playing nonstop, 1 to 2 sports year round, and constantly getting injured. One day I was taking a class at my high school, Bishop Alameda High School, and anatomy. We had a keynote speaker come in, talk about sports medicine, physical therapy. And I listened to it. I'm like, wait a minute, you get paid to fix people? I do that to myself every week. I got to check this out. And then I got to Humboldt State, and I'm sitting there listening to the pitches on the different career paths, and they said athletic training, and basically sounded so similar to PT, but only with athletes. I'm like, you know what? That's the route. I still always had PT back in the back of my mind, but just being around athletes, being around that passion for sports and athletics just really kind of kept me going. I did think for a while about PT. I worked in a clinic after college for about 3.5 years and just realized, my girlfriend then, wife now, looked at me, you're only happy on a Friday night when you're sprinting out on the field and someone's got their leg pointing the wrong direction. Get back to sports. Mm-hmm. And it's been like that ever since. Went back to athletic training in, I think it was 96, 97, and just been doing it ever since. It's just what I do. It's who I am. It's part of my passion in life.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. And I know we hear that from a lot of our members, athletic trainers in baseball, is, the dream ends for all of us at some point, most of us, you, myself, and millions of others who figure out they can't play at the next level, even, post high school or post college, whatever that may be. And ultimately, it's a fantastic way to stay involved in sports, keep that competitive edge. And also, one thing that I think most of our members would resonate with is, impacting winning when you're not a player. I think that's
Yep.
something that really drives a lot of athletic trainers, just being part of that team that they can't be as a player anymore. So interesting to hear you echo that sentiment there. I do want to start today by getting into a bit more about your role at St. Francis now. If you don't mind sharing with our listeners who might be looking to break into athletic training in, their first job or an internship or something like that, talk to a bit about the role an athletic trainer plays in the high school setting, and also how fulfilling and rewarding that be, because you really are working with athletes who are striving to kind of get to that next level.
It really was fulfilling, and I never thought it would be. I swore up and down I'd never work at a high school. I swore up and down I'd never teach. I
Mm-hmm.
swore up and down I was going to be in the pros somewhere, somehow, some way, like, 95% of us, and found my niche. And it's really satisfying. So one of my former interns from just a few years ago accidentally said in front of me, high school's a stepping stone. And I paused and I looked at her. I'm like, a stepping stone? What, to get to somewhere better? And she quickly backpedaled. And we joke about it now.
Mm-hmm.
It is a way to make an impact that lasts a lifetime, because these young men, young women come in, they're teenagers, they're kids, they're still trying to figure out life. And you have an impact past healthcare. You help them become who they're going to be if you do it right. Some of these locations in Los Angeles, I'm fortunate, I work at a very affluent school. Some of them, the only healthcare provider they see is an athletic trainer. You might be the doctor, quote unquote, that sees them and helps them through some very medical situations and refers them to whatever clinic they can get to. So at the high school level, you are not just a healthcare provider, you're a confidant, you are a psychologist at times, you are a shoulder to cry on when a boyfriend or a girlfriend breaks up and they just need somebody to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
When they're getting into that point where mentally they're in a bad space, I joke about it. People of our age know, hey, I'm the bartender. I'm Sam Malone from Cheers. You can say whatever you want to me. It's going to stay with me. And, we have that trust. I'm not going to pass that information on. So you really have much more of an impact than just those 4 years you have them. And it sticks with them. It's always gratifying every year to see how many alum come back and just let me know, hey, Mr. Hallak, how you doing? Remember me? I'll be honest, I'm getting older. I forget names, but I never forget a face.
Sure.
And it is fun to just connect with them again and hear, remember when I did this? No, but he's like, well, you said, and you did. And it's amazing to hear the impact we have as a healthcare provider on these young men, young women's lives that last really far beyond our years. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, and as someone myself personally who spent a ton of time on the training table in high school and through my college baseball career, the athletic trainers are people. One word that comes to mind is just trust. You
Yeah,
spend time on that table. You trust them with your rehab. You trust them to get you back on the field. And there is a lot of stress mentally, like you mentioned, that you do need a, quote unquote therapist, psychologist for when you're worried about getting back on the field, furthering your career. And you just spend a lot of time in there, and it's someone, you need to have a relationship with that's comfortable. And I think that's a very underrated aspect of the job that you mentioned there. A lot of the PBATS members over the course of this show have called it feel, just having feel for the athlete, knowing what they
totally.
need, when they need it, if they need to joke around. It's kind of like a caddy in golf almost at sometimes that I compare it to.
That's a great way to put it.
And a
Yeah.
lot of people, a lot of our listeners to that end are familiar with the job and resources of athletic trainers in professional baseball. But I do want to hear from you about the high school setting. Talk to us a bit about staff sizes,
Ooh.
resources.
Ooh.
I know it might be a little less in certain instances, like you mentioned, affluent schools might have more, but what does that look like when you're, handling so much, covering so many athletes, with probably limited resources compared to a Major League Baseball team?
We have a few less dollars than, say, the Dodgers, the Angels, the Giants. I'll say all the California
There you
teams,
go.
Padres and the
Mm-hmm.
A's. But I'm very fortunate, and I'll be the first one to say it, at St. Francis High School over the last, this is going to be my 27th year. We have developed a very robust program. Thankfully, our administration believes in us, and I'm able to say us because we've had kind of an evolution. In the beginning, it was just me, and I did all healthcare on campus. One thing we lack in California, unfortunately, is state licensure and regulation. So we're kind of a big asterisk. Nobody knows how to deal with us, which is unfortunate. It's got a great shot this year. We're hoping the bill is pushing through. We might actually get at least regulation, which would be great. But at the high school level, unless you had an athletic trainer previously in life, you don't know who they are or what they do. So we're constantly educating. At my school, the first 10 years, the first couple of years were great. Nobody knew what I did. I just did it. And I took care of people. And as they got used to me and things evolved, they added sports, they added clubs, they added workload, and didn't understand why I was so stressed. I mean, you know it. A good week maybe is 55 hours. Which is horrible if you're on salary. It's great if you're hourly, but no such luck there. So at my 10th year, after I sat down with our administration and showed the level of addition to my hours, plus the additional need for staffing, we had literally added at that point 4 months of full-time work to my job. And I am the sole healthcare provider. Mm-hmm. There is no school nurse. I am the school medic. I take care of everything. You get I work at an all-boys school, so I can say this. You get some dumb young boy who snaps a towel at his buddy in the locker room and goes, and this is a true story, goes running around away from him, slips, falls, and goes headfirst into a locker, mm-hmm. splits his head open all the way to the skull. I get pulled out of class. And you gotta be the healthcare provider instantly. And I've got no problem with that. I love it. You never know what's going to happen at an all-boy campus. Because guys make bad decisions every day, and sure. Especially when they're 13, 14. But it started taking a toll, and our administration was kind enough at that point and had the resources enough to bring in a part-time second, which turned into a full-time position over by my 11th or 10th year. And just recently, we sat down again because my colleague Joel Dorning and I, again, we were sitting down looking at the numbers. We had added 3 full-time months of work, 40-hour weeks, mm-hmm. 3 months to our schedule. And we were going nuts. And we brought it to the admin again and said, look, you wouldn't do this to a coach. You wouldn't do this to a teacher. We need more help. And we were blessed to add a third position this year. And that is not heard often. Third position at a high school level is unheard of. So I know we're fortunate. We have 1,000 square foot main facility. We have a 500 square foot satellite facility. We've got access to darn near any type of equipment we need, and that's abnormal. Mm-hmm. We're very fortunate. I work with a lot of other high schools. I have tables that we're getting rid of. I will call my colleagues, say, hey, I know you're at LA City School. You need stuff? I've got it. We help each other out. We have to. You need help with books. You need help with supplies. I've got some extras. This is the end of the year Gatorade. It's almost expired. We're buying new. Hey, you want it? We've got some extra jugs that our rep left us here. We help each other because we know some do not have the means and some do. And in California, let alone any high school, you really help each other out.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And I know there's definitely some resources that could be used at different schools that you probably have and that, our guys and women have. So really cool to hear you, passing on stuff that's necessary. And PBAT's kind of worked to do something similar this year where our minor league of athletic trainers of the year across all 16 minor leagues, Gatorade and Medco helped us send a big sports medicine package to the high school of their choice.
I remember that. That was really cool. I saw that online.
Yeah. So we work to, give back, just like you were saying. It's awesome to hear you guys are doing the same. Really, really cool there. And obviously behind the scenes work like athletic training and healthcare, like you mentioned, is often underfunded and not provided the resources they need. But it's good to hear, you guys, you being there for so long, are in a position to go to bat for more people. That's awesome. And it gives more people an opportunity to learn the high school setting and athletic training, which is something I also wanted to talk to you about here. Many people are looking to break into athletic training as professionals. Like you said, it's not a stepping stone working in the high school arena. It's absolutely not. It's such a impactful job, like you've touched on a bunch here. Do you think it's a good idea or an impactful place of employment for a young athletic trainer to start their career in high school, get experience at that level prior to deciding on what route they want to take with their career?
That's a tough question. It really depends on the individual. Currently, our site is we're preceptors for two different universities, Cal State University Northridge Athletic Training Program, and then University of Laverne Athletic Training Program. So we see the youngins quite a bit, and they come in and a lot of them think I'm going pro, I'm going pro, I'm going pro, which, hey, that's the dream for anything. And then they find their niche. It's really hard to say what's best for each individual. It's a personal feeling. They know it when they're there. But I tell you what, it's kind of hard as a newbie to be on your own without any support and be the head athletic trainer. I know when I did it, I was fortunate. I had a few years of work behind me because I thought I was going to do PT. I had 3.5 years in a clinic. So I had a lot of resources. I could not imagine doing it by myself out there on your own, no resources, because constantly you're sitting there going, I remember reading this. I remember learning about this, but it ain't presenting this way. It ain't doing that. Having that network to reach out to ask, whether that's another athletic trainer on site, say at the college level as a GA or as an assistant, is really helpful. I almost feel it's better to have a position where you have colleagues the first year or two, get a little wet behind the ears, have a little support for help before you are the end all be all final straw at a high school in charge of these kids who aren't always 100% honest. They might leave out a smidge of information or two, So having that background of a couple years of experience to walk in and go, wait a minute, I can tell you're not telling me everything, buddy, would be helpful. So I think it would be good for a person to go out, get a position where they are not the head right off the bat. Whether that's at the high school level, like in our case where we have 3 people, or at the collegiate level where there are several, or in a minor league or professional situation where there are several as well. That way you have somebody to lean on when you're questioning yourself.
Yeah, that echoes kind of the statements that a lot of our members in Major League Baseball have said on this podcast, that when they got to their first minor league affiliate job, it was them and themselves, and they had no idea what was going on. And if they didn't have a mentor, they just, trial by fire, making mistakes, learning at those lower levels. So one thing that people have mentioned on this show a lot is, you can learn all the anatomy, all the textbook information, but getting hands-on experience with athletes and working with them and their mentalities is irreplaceable. And I think, the high school setting probably provides an awesome opportunity for that.
1,000%. Oh my God, it is nuts. At the high school level, you never know from day to day what you're going to see, especially in our situation where we do the healthcare for everything. It could be, it's silly. It could be a simple, hey, Eli, he's got a fever. And since 2020, you get a fever, everybody gets nervous. Well, let's take a look at him. No big deal. But, we assist with some of the summer camps, and we had our new person who happened to be the one, Victoria Chavez, who said, high school was a stepping stone. We informed her, you're going to change your mind. I guarantee it. Well, she just got hired as our third athletic trainer.
That's awesome.
And took care of a summer camp. And the difference between high school students and junior high students, elementary school students at a basketball camp is kind of hilarious. It's a completely different animal, and you have to be a little different in the nurturing. So you never know how you're going to have to react to these young men, young women, and taking care of them, because their owies are serious.
Yeah.
No matter how minimal they look to us, you have to take it at their face value. And that's just something you don't learn in a program till, like you said, you get hands-on and go, wait a minute, this isn't much. Why are you screaming like you're about to give birth, kid?
Yeah, there you never know what you're going to get with younger athletes for sure. Well, obviously you've done so much at the school in the past 20 years. This might be a tough one to answer for you, but is there anything you're most proud of, perhaps rehab responsibilities, or just growing the staff and being able to do that
Oh,
on your own at the beginning? Anything that really stands out, or maybe a couple things over the course of your career there?
well, I can tell you, I can give you probably three. I could probably give you a dozen, but I
Of
don't want to
course.
bore you. We've started some things to give kids experiences over the years. We started the National High School Sports Medicine Association, National Honor Society of Sports Medicine, that my colleague Cindy Kramer at Notre Dame University and other colleagues, Ellen Payne, she's now in Pennsylvania. We started to give high school kids experience and exposure to sports medicine and athletic training and healthcare and get them excited. That was so much fun to do and still do as the president of the association. We started a high school sports medicine competition in the state of California 20 years ago. And oh my God, it's a blast. Every year I sit there going, why the hell do I do this? And then the moment I say hello to everybody and those young men and women from three states, 650 kids go nuts. I'm like, I'm in. Okay, I'll do it again next year. And it's just so fun to see kids get excited. Excuse me, young men, young women get excited about the potential of healthcare and competing. At my school, the relationships I've developed, that's probably the best part, whether it's been with the kids or the colleagues. But professionally, the thing I'm most proud of, and I can point to it in a heartbeat, was COVID. So right
Yeah.
before all hell broke loose, we all went through hell. It is what it is. My administrator at the time looked at me. I'm going to bring in a nurse to help you take care of this. And I looked at him and said, well, what else am I going to do? Sports are shut down. I got this. Don't worry. I tell you what, if I could go back and smack myself in the face and say, no, 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 let him bring in the nurse, I would, because I all of a sudden had a complete education in public health. And it was very good to see a more in-depth side of healthcare. But when they finally let us back into school, the work that had to go into it, that our team really sat down and did to get LA County Department of Public Health allow us to reopen. I swore personally we would never shut back down. And I can say, with all the policies, procedures, we did everything on campus. We purchased the COVID machines, the testing machines, the tests. We did everything with our staff on site, nonstop, all the time. We were the only school in our league that once we opened, didn't even take one day off because we kept the school safe. We took one day after Christmas, shut down the school, or I shouldn't say shut down the school. We paused and added one extra day of Christmas break to test the entire school. We did a drive-by test for everybody.
Wow.
We caught 33 students that were positive, asymptomatic, who would have spread the school, and we would have been shut down. And we kept the school open by testing that entire month of January, while other schools went, you know what, let's be safe. We'll take a week or 2 weeks off and just go virtual. And I don't know about you, but I was done with virtual. So our staff did everything we could, and we were the only school to remain open in that way and not go to virtual after we came back.
No, that's an awesome accomplishment. And I can say, in dealing with COVID on the PBATs and Major League Baseball side of things, our former president, Ron Porterfield, had a major impact on managing the entire process for his organization and working with Major League Baseball, vice presidents of health and safety up there to make sure things could keep moving. They set up alternate sites for minor league players to work out at and stay safe. And I think the athletic trainers and PBATs had a major impact on allowing that shortened season to get started and to continue. And I know it was long nights and late phone calls and pretty much an insane amount of work for anybody. So I can't imagine what it was like for high school athletic trainers and people like yourself who were working with limited resources. But, kudos to you guys for doing a great job there, as you mentioned. During your 20 plus years, as we mentioned, at the school, I do have to ask, as a baseball podcast, what sports, and don't feel the need to say
Uh-oh,
baseball.
uh-oh, uh-oh.
You don't need to act like shoulder and elbow injuries are your favorite thing to deal with, but in your 20 plus years there, do you have a favorite sport that you like covering, or something you don't, or what kind of excites you the most in terms of injuries and rehab?
Okay, well, let me state the political answer first. I love all
Of
my
course.
kids.
There you
I love
go.
watching them all play, and I'm only excited when they do well. Well, I shouldn't say that. I'm excited when they do well. I'm bummed when they lose. But a good day for me is when nobody gets hurt. But on that note, my favorite thing is trauma. I love trauma. And that's horrible to say as an athletic trainer, because it makes you sound like a vulture. So at the high school level, football, you see a lot of trauma.
Yeah,
You never know what you're going to get. And it makes it a little fun for me, not knowing any moment what direction a bone's going to poke.
sure.
Is it going to poke out? Is it going to be a misdirection? How many concussions are we going to have this week? It's fun from the trauma and the day to day not knowing. I kind of love that. I love the trauma side of it. I love the not knowing it. But I tell you what, I love covering all the sports. I love football, baseball, soccer, basketball, lacrosse. Cross country is even fun. Watching my boys come across that line and finishing
Yeah,
well this last year. Last 2 years they won state, which is just amazing. So I really do enjoy just watching the boys have fun. But when it
yeah.
comes down to it, I like trauma.
Gotcha. No, that
Yeah.
makes sense. It's exciting in a weird way for an athletic trainer, and I totally see your point there. One question related to that, you mentioned there's so many sports you cover. Let's say it's the fall and there's, maybe tennis and cross country, volleyball, football going on. How do you guys, with a smaller staff at the high school level, are you attending every single game? Are
Oh,
you breaking those
wow.
up by sports? How do you guys kind of balance having somebody there for so many sports at the high school level?
Well, I can answer that in two ways. One, what is it like to be an athletic trainer on your own? Like my first 11 years.
Hmm.
It's rough during that time of year when you've got multiple teams, multiple sports going at the same time. You really have to prioritize, A, liability of the school, B, impact contact. Where's the potential for the most catastrophic injuries? So obviously, during fall sports, that's football, in all honesty. So we would be at most football games. Any home football game was covered. Now, having said that, you also have at our place, you have water polo and cross country. So you add that, you look at, okay, cross country meet. Well, that's going to be on a Wednesday, Thursday. You have 400 or 500 kids. The liability to the school is huge, but you have a football game where the potential for a catastrophic injury is there. So then you have to sit down with your administration and go, there's just one of me. What do you want me to cover? And over the years at St. Francis, the priority became football because of the potential for trauma and catastrophic injuries. And at the
Sure.
same time, we made sure that all coaches are first aid certified and CPR certified so they could stabilize until I would get there.
Okay.
And that's how a lot of the high schools with only one clinician operate. Now, fortunately, as more staff becomes available, we assign it. So right now we have 3 football teams. We play 2 games on Thursday, JV and freshman. One will
Hmm.
be home, one will be away. And then we have the one varsity football on Friday night. So with the addition of our third person, we had, and one of the reasons we obtained a third person, there were a lot of injuries at away football games during the fall.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, California, I think it's 41 or 44%. I forget the exact number. It's in the 40s. Of the high school student athletes have access to an athletic trainer. So there were a lot of times, especially in our non-league games, where they're going to a school, there's no healthcare provider there.
Yeah.
We would have just unreal injuries. And it finally got to the point where our admin asked, well, if we get a third, could we cover some of those away games? And that's what we're doing. So we will prioritize. We will send our third staff member to that away football game. Basketball, soccer, we split up. You cover this, I cover that. And then we try to keep it to a 40-hour week. You can do it, that comment what you will. That's more of a joke than anything in athletic training. If we hit 50, if we could keep it under 50, I know we would be excited. So that's the goal with adding our third staff members, trying to keep us under 50 hours a week.
Gotcha.
So we just prioritize, and we'll sit down with the administration and say, look, here's what we got going on. Here's how we see it medically for catastrophic injuries, and the legal issues for the school. Where we're liable are the home games. So those take priority. But catastrophic injuries, what do you want us to do? Fortunately, our administration's been around a long time. We did have a changeover the last few years, but it was a vice principal stepped into the principal's role.
Okay.
And so we all have great relationships, and we're very honest, transparent, and work collaboratively to make sure that everything gets taken care of.
Yeah, that's great to hear, and interesting kind of to understand the priority and the scheduling that goes into making sure healthcare professionals are available for all the athletes, which is so important. One thing I'm really interested to talk to you about today is the information age and technology. So not necessarily for what you guys do, what your staff does in the training room, but more so along the lines of the athletes in your care have access to so much information. When I was in high school, if I was injured, I worked with the athletic trainer, and their word was what I did. That was it. At this point, there's going to be parents on YouTube, kids on YouTube, kind of like, trying to fix a golf swing. You go on YouTube and you get some bad information. How difficult is it for you and your staff to manage kids who may not trust your word or may think they found the greatest rehab on YouTube for their ankle injury? How do you go about managing that and making sure they're not, stepping outside of what they know, and they are really trusting what you guys are trying to do?
Well, it's been more challenging in the last few years. I'd say last 3-4 years than it was prior to 2020. People really got used to being on their own and going out and finding information. And really it comes down to what all athletic trainers do. Excuse me. It really comes down to what all athletic trainers do daily. Educate.
Yeah.
We sit there and teach them, hey, so that guy you're watching on YouTube says he's a whatever medically. Let's do a little research. Get on the keyboard, type it up. Look, he's a personal trainer without any background.
Yep.
That's great. Some of his exercises could be useful. Let's look at it. So we try and find a happy middle ground, let them know, look, it's not our way or the highway, even though in the old days it was. But there's some really good ideas out there. You can find some on the internet. We can use maybe some of the tools, and that's all it is. It's another tool in the toolbox. Once those young men and young women realize the internet is a tool, it's not the end all be all, then we can get them kind of back in the fold and listening and trusting. But really, a lot of them don't trust us unless they have an experience with us.
Yeah.
Which is, it sucks to say, because I got so used to, I was spoiled after my first 20 years. What I said was gold almost. That I had been there long enough that so many people knew me. We had or knew us, because by the time I was 20, my colleague Joel had been there 10. They knew us, they trust us, they believed us. But it's really been the last few years just re-educating and letting them know, look, the internet's got some great tools, but that's it. It's a tool in the toolbox. You can't trust it all. You really have to know what you're doing, what you're talking about. And like you said earlier, unless you can get your hands on that injury, you don't really know.
Yeah, you never know. Yeah, that's a great point. Like anything, like in the big leagues or minor leagues, if you've been in the clubhouse and the training room for 20 years, you're going to command that respect and that trust from players. So like anything, work and life in general, relationships are extremely important, and proving yourself and getting your hands on the athlete to see what's going on is paramount. On that same note, within the major leagues and minor league baseball specifically, in the rehab process, athletes, professionals, that is, are going to be motivated to get back. They're going to follow the rules. They're going to follow direction. They're going to be there at 8 a.m. to do the rehab because that's their job. It's their livelihood. It's their money. It's real life. Do you find it that high school students, maybe those who have no future in sports and just are enjoying themselves, do you find it tough to get those athletes to stick to treatment and rehab plans, or what's kind of that attitude for athletes under your care?
It really depends on the person. I mean, they're so unique in their passions, their beliefs, their loves, and their drives. Sometimes these kids are, excuse me, young men are extremely passionate about their rehab right before sprints. It's really funny how quickly they decide, wow, I really need to do treatment right now. And they come running in and we'll look at them, buddy, you made it through the entire practice and it's time to run. Get your butt back out there and do your job.
Yeah, sounds familiar to any high school athlete there.
Totally, totally. So it's really every student is unique. We do have some kids that really put in the time and really work hard. We had a unique situation this year where we had two kids almost killed, struck by a car walking
Wow.
to practice. Our facility is a little unique. We have on top of the hill is all our classes. And then at the bottom of the hill, which is about 11 flights of stairs, is our stadium. And that's where the sports med facility is. That's where the football team practice, soccer, everybody else, weight room. And the kids get a little lazy, even though we have a wonderful parking area up there. They don't want to walk upstairs after practice. So they go park downstairs. We call it downstairs in the community. And then walk across the street and up about 100 yards. There was a medical emergency on a car that was driving. The woman lost control and went right at about 10 of our kids. She was medically out of it. Fortunately, all but two dove out of the way. One kind of got Olayed hit, so just like a bullfighter, Olay.
Yep.
And the other one somehow, some way got hit on the front corner under the tire, and God had a hand in this. He literally, as the thing hit him and he went under, jumped out from underneath.
Wow.
The kids that saw it were so stunned at what happened. But in the process, one of the kids who isn't a starter last year, but was really passionate about being part of the team, he came in every day after he was cleared for rehab.
Yeah.
And it's not because he had a starting spot. It's not because he was going to be an All-American or All-CIF or All-State or All-League or all anything. He just missed it. He had the passion. He wanted to be around his friends. And we see that sometimes. Those kids that just know this is all I'm going to get. I'm not going to play at the college level. I'm going to make the most out of this. And
Sure.
those are the kids that work hard. And then we have the other kids that just come in when when it hurts a little bit too much, need a little something. And we know that. We get them squared away, get them out there. But everybody's a little different at the high school level. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Some are driven to be there because they know this is all they got. And they will never get anything past this. And it's always fun to help those kids get back.
Yeah, absolutely. And Eli, on top of all your work in the high school setting that we've talked about, which is amazing, you also hope to host the Wrap It Up podcast where you discuss sports medicine and athletic healthcare for youth athletics. I want to touch base with you a bit about your podcast coming up here and your goals on that platform. And I definitely want to get the word out there. But one thing that we just talked about on this podcast the last 3 weeks was sports specialization among youth.
God. Yeah.
So PBATS members, Jamie Reed, the medical director for the Texas Rangers, presents on this all year long about arm injuries, the arm health epidemic, and just so much going on there. PBATS members mostly preach avoiding specialization until at least age 16. And there's so much research out there that our members have their hand in, specifically in baseball and overhead throwing, which is always interesting to learn about. Do you guys have an opinion on that issue, sports specialization for young people? And also, how have you seen that at your school grow in terms of travel ball, people maybe not even wanting to play for the high school and crazy things like that?
Well, I 1000% agree with the people presenting, and so does my staff. It is a horrific thing for these young athletes to be specializing. We see my first 10, 15 years, I very rarely ever saw a Tommy John surgery. I
Yeah.
probably count on one hand my first 10, 15 years how many Tommy Johns. I can count on two hands probably every year how many I see now. It
Yeah,
is just
that's
horrible.
crazy.
These kids are playing on two, three teams at the same time. So the pitch count, or the throwing, whatever, doesn't really matter to the other team because they don't know about it.
Of course. Yep.
And it's just disappointing. As a former baseball player and remembering the wear and tear on my body, that was one of the reasons my dad said, no, go play soccer, go play basketball, go play something else. And the thought of all these private coaches making all this money off these kids, just saying, oh, we're going to get you a college scholarship. Oh, we're going to get you drafted. Oh, we're going to get this. Oh, we're going to get that. It's horrible. They're making money off these kids and in the long run hurting their bodies. And, 20 years from now, they're going to have had 1 to 2 surgeries, maybe 3. Because of that, they're never going to hit their goal or dream of playing college, let alone pros. It's atrocious. It really is. And the lack of knowledge at some of these travel ball levels, some of these coaching staffs, not all of them, some of them are very sound. And we have a couple locally, whenever they see anything, they shut them down immediately. They'll take care of them. They'll either send them to us or a physician real quick, which is fantastic. But I'd probably venture to say 80, 85% of the coaches out there have no idea what they're talking about, which is horrible to say. They know the sport, but they don't know how to take care of these kids medically. And you just see it over and over and over again. And it's depressing.
Yeah, that's a great point. Just about the number of teams and coaches that players might have who they're motivated by what they're motivated by. It's not necessarily always the best interest of the thrower or the pitcher or just the player in general. And I think, these numbers might be a bit off, but I think 35% of big leaguers have had Tommy John surgery, like a 30% increase since 2016. And often when our members present, they'll show kind of a heat map of back in the day, it used to be safer to, draft the pitcher from Wisconsin or Minnesota because they had way less mileage on their arm simply
Less
because
wear
of
and
weather.
tear.
But now with travel ball indoor facilities, those trends are being kind of equaled out. So it's sad to see so many young kids, even some parents wanting their kid to have proactive Tommy
Oh,
John
yeah.
surgery.
Yeah.
Just crazy stories that you hear about within baseball. But thankfully, guys like you and our members are working hard to just educate, like you said, and teach coaches that, and players as well. The high school coach never benches a player that really impacts winning and is a great player. So players who have the ability and can get to the next level, they'll be discovered. And I think it's important for them to remember you don't need to, kill yourself and, end up having Tommy John surgery when you're 16 because you want to play at the next level. So
Exactly.
good to have educators like yourself out there, to share that information. And kind of a good segue there of information sharing, jumping back into your podcast a bit. Talk to the listeners about, I know you're so busy at the school and doing all the awesome things we talked about. How'd you get started? What do you guys focus on? And what are you most excited about when you kind of venture into, I guess what we call it, sports medicine media for your podcast?
It's kind of funny. So my producer, who is also my brother, Gabriel Hallak, I got a shout out to him right now,
Of course.
had really bothered me for about, and I told you this earlier, 5 to 7 years. He's been bugging me. You got to do a podcast. You got to do a podcast. Because in the family, everybody knows I'm a talker. So no problem. It doesn't mean you're going to be good. You're just good at talking. And he said, at the time he'd been listening to a lot of podcasts and nobody really looked at the aspect of athletic training, sports medicine, the way that we do. At the time he started viewing it, a lot of doctors, a lot of PTs, a lot of other clinicians trying to get their name out there, trying to sell their product, sell their clinic, just not taking care of people. So I looked at him and said, fine, after 5 years, if I do one episode, will you leave me alone? And he said, yeah, sure. You'll be hooked. It's all good. We did our first episode, and I realized this is a platform for educating,
Yep.
giving information about who we are as athletic trainers, what we do at any level. We've interviewed high school coaches. We've interviewed former athletes, professional athletes, college athletes, and just talked about what it's like to have that daily conversation with an athletic trainer. We've talked about different aspects of healthcare. We were talking to a stuntman the other day and what it was like on set. We spoke with the rodeo athletic trainers and what it was like.
Yeah.
So we're looking to kind of get the information out about the secondary school setting, educating people about who we are, what we can do for them if they're the student, or their kids if they're the parents, how educated we are, how helpful we are, what we do. And then at the same time, spinning it and going into what are the other avenues in healthcare that we could help at. Also, you touched on it, coaches.
Yeah.
You don't always have a great coach. And shining the light on those people who really make a difference. We constantly are talking to people that we have heard really make an impact on youth. And we want that to get out. We want them to know that what they do impacts a young man, young woman's life for a long time. We want, hopefully, one or two listeners to catch a pearl of knowledge. Look, here's what we hear over and over about a good coach. This is what we want taking care of our son or our daughter when they're playing football, soccer, baseball, softball, whatever it is, lacrosse. We want a person like that, not somebody that's just yelling, score, score, win, win at any, no matter what it takes. We want somebody that's going to look to develop that young man, young woman. And we try to highlight those individuals. That's really what it came from. We realized that less me, and more helping others needed to be focused on in the field. And we're having fun doing it at the same time, making some good relationships, meeting some good people, finding out, there are a lot of us out there that really are trying to make a difference.
No, that's well said. I think the education, first of all, on our side of things, letting people know what's out there for an athletic training for a student, for a professor, for someone who's in the profession already looking to make a jump, what jobs are out there. Secondarily, what we've done the past couple of months, we had a Tommy John series and also a youth arm health series as well. You guys, and our members across the country are so knowledgeable, often underutilized, I would say, in terms of educating. And we're, it's awesome to see people like you and PBATs as well using their platform to showcase athletic trainers. There's so much that goes into it. Without athletic trainers, there's no sporting event. You're so necessary, so needed to make things go. From anything from COVID testing, like we mentioned, to just being there for an athlete in need, mentally or something like that. So really cool to see you doing that. And we all always appreciate you coming on here to share that information. I do want to give you a second to let our listeners know, first of all, where they can find the show, where they can follow along with, Eli on social media or anything like that. So feel free to take a couple minutes here to let our listeners where they can find you online.
Well, thank you for letting me plug our stuff. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Our podcast is called Wrap It Up, Sports Medicine and More. You can find it on all platforms, Spotify, YouTube, Apple. That's my producer's job, so I forget everything. But those are the big ones.
Yeah,
those are all the big ones. I'm always on LinkedIn. Eli Hallak, Hallak. We do a lot of stuff outside of athletic training, but in the field. You can look us up, get more information about our honor society and our association at the initials of National Honor Society of Sports Medicine, so nhssm.org. We're a nonprofit that helps high school students hopefully find a career in healthcare. The sports medicine competition that we help host is at aacitest.org. Please, any interest, anything, any questions. The funny thing is, over the last 27 years, we've developed a good network of colleagues and friends in SoCal, and really reaching out across the nation. We've got some great colleagues up in Washington State, Texas, Kentucky, Virginia, just all over the place. And if I don't know something, I'm going to refer them to my friend, my colleague. So if you got a question about the high school setting or something you just not sure about, please feel free to reach out via email or any of those social media platforms, and we'll connect you with somebody that can help, because ultimately all of us are just trying to help somebody else. And that's really what our profession is all about, just helping others. That's all we do every day, in and out, whether it's via telehealth, which I did several times yesterday. I didn't know I was doing telehealth 20 years ago via FaceTime, and who knew? Or if it's just an email, a phone call, shoulder to cry on when that person finds out he blows out his ACL. It's educating and caring for others in their time of need. So if you're into that, this profession's for you. If you're not into that, boy, this profession will take a lot from you. So look somewhere else.
Yeah, no, very well said. And we appreciate you coming on today and sharing that information. Again, we'll put some links in the show notes to the National Honor Society of Sports Medicine and where you can find Eli's podcast and give that a listen as well. Like you said, the athletic trainer is someone who leads by serving. I think that's kind of a motto of our membership, and very true, and cool to hear you echo those same sentiments there. But Eli, thanks so much for joining the show. Obviously appreciate all your work in the field and the profession and with your podcast, and good luck to you and your staff this upcoming school year.
Thanks, Sam. We could use all the luck we can get. I appreciate your time and having me on the show. Look forward to having one of your members on our show too. So thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening to episode 70 of the Inside Athletic Training Podcast. For more information about PBATS and athletic training, visit pbats.com.